I didn't respond to my son-in-law's phone call. I simply hung up, stared at the pine trees outside my cottage window, and felt something cold settle in my chest. Not anger, not yet. Something worse. Clarity. My parents are moving in with you. If you don't like it, move back to the city. Those were his exact words. Screamed, actually, as if volume could make his demands more legitimate, as if I hadn't spent 40 years building the life he now felt entitled to dismantle with a single phone call. I'd retired to this cottage 6 months ago, leaving behind the suffocating apartment in the city where I'd raised my children. The forest was supposed to be my reward. Peace. Quiet. The sound of wind through leaves instead of traffic. Bird songs instead of arguments. But peace, I was learning, is something other people will never let you have. The cottage was small, just 2 bedrooms, a kitchen that smelled like cedar, and a living room with a stone fireplace I'd learned to use properly only last month. I'd bought it with my savings, every penny earned through 30 years of teaching high school English. Not inherited, not given, earned. My daughter Emily had seemed supportive when I'd told her about the move. "You deserve this, Mom," she'd said, hugging me at the realtor's office. After everything with Dad. After everything with Dad. That was her way of referring to the divorce, the cancer, all compressed into one sanitized phrase. After everything with Dad, I'd been left with the apartment, some savings, and 2 adult children who visited twice a year. Then Emily married Jason. Jason worked in finance, which he mentioned approximately 4 times per conversation. He wore suits that cost more than my monthly grocery budget and drove a car whose brand name I couldn't pronounce. He smiled with too many teeth and called me Mom in a way that felt like an invasion. At their wedding 3 months ago, he'd cornered me by the dessert table. "So, Mom, about that apartment in the city," he'd said, loading his plate with cake. "Emily and I were thinking it's really just sitting there empty now. Seems like a waste." "I still own it," I'd said carefully. Right. But you're not using it. And we could really use the space. Starting a family soon, you know." He winked. I'd smiled politely and excused myself to the bathroom, where I'd stood in a stall and breathed deeply, counting to 10 like I used to tell my students to do when they were angry. But the real incident came later that night, during the reception. Jason's parents had flown in from California, wealthy retirees who spent half the year traveling and the other half complaining about how hard travel was. His mother, Patricia, had approached me near the bar, champagne in hand. "We absolutely must visit you at that cottage Emily told us about," she'd said. "It sounds charming, rustic." "It's quite small," I'd replied. "Oh, we don't need much space. Just somewhere quiet to stay for a few weeks. Jason says you have a spare bedroom?" A few weeks. "Actually, the spare room is my office," I'd said. "For my writing. I'd been working on a novel. It wasn't very good, probably, but it was mine. The room had a desk, my old typewriter, shelves I'd built myself." Patricia's smile had frozen. "You're writing? Emily said you were retired." "Retired from teaching, not from living." The smile had disappeared entirely. She'd set down her champagne glass with more force than necessary. "Well, I suppose we'll have to make other arrangements." But Jason had overheard. He'd appeared beside his mother, his own smile now sharp. "Come on, Mom. You're being generous. We all know the cottage is really a gift from us to you." "Excuse me? The down payment. We loaned you the money, remember?" I'd felt the floor tilt slightly. That wasn't a loan. Emily said it was a gift. For my retirement. "Semantics," Jason had said, waving his hand. "Point is, we helped make it happen. So really it's partly ours too." Emily had been dancing with her bridesmaids. She hadn't seen the confrontation. Or maybe she had, and chose not to intervene. That's when it happened. Patricia had reached for my arm, gripping it hard enough to leave marks. "You ungrateful woman," After everything my son has done for your daughter. I'd pulled away, stepping back. The movement caught Emily's attention across the room. She'd started walking toward us. But Patricia wasn't finished. She'd raised her hand and slapped me across the face. The crack echoed through the reception hall. Conversation stopped. Music played on, absurdly cheerful, while everyone stared. My cheek burned. I stood there, frozen, feeling 100 eyes on me. Emily had rushed over. "Mom! Patricia! What happened?" "Your mother was being difficult," Patricia said calmly, as if she hadn't just assaulted me in front of 200 guests. "She slapped me," I said quietly. Jason appeared, inserting himself between us. "Let's not make a scene. Mom probably just had too much champagne. Everyone back to the party?" Not an apology. Not concern for me, just damage control. Emily had looked between us, her face torn. Then she'd taken Jason's arm. "Maybe you should go home, Mom. You look tired." I'd left the wedding early, claiming a headache that wasn't far from the truth. No one had followed me out. I'd driven home in silence, my cheek still stinging, and sat in my cottage for hours trying to understand what had just happened. The slap wasn't about me refusing to host Jason's parents. It was about power, about putting me in my place, about making sure I understood that I existed at their pleasure, not my own. That was 3 months ago. Since then, there had been uncomfortable phone calls, hints and suggestions. Emily mentioning how Patricia and her husband were between homes and needed somewhere quiet and affordable. I'd held firm. This was my home, my space, my retirement. And now Jason had called, not asking anymore, but demanding. I made tea, Earl Grey, and sat in my reading chair by the window. The forest was beautiful in October, all gold and crimson. I'd planted a small garden in the spring, mostly herbs and tomatoes. I'd learned the names of the local birds. I'd made friends with Mrs. Henderson next door, a widow who brought me soup and gossip in equal measure. This was my life now. Small, quiet, mine. And they wanted to take it. The phone rang again, Emily this time. "Mom, Jason told me you hung up on him. He was screaming at me, making demands. He's stressed. We're stressed. His parents really need a place to stay. Their condo is being renovated." "There are hotels, Emily, rental properties. This isn't my problem." "Mom," her voice had that edge it got when she was losing patience. "Don't be difficult. It's just for a few weeks, maybe a month or two." "A month or two? No, absolutely not. We helped you buy that cottage." There it was. The truth, finally spoken out loud. "That was a gift," I said quietly. "You told me it was a gift." "Well, maybe we need to reconsider that arrangement. Maybe we need to formalize things, get lawyers involved." My hand tightened on the phone. "Are you threatening me?" "I'm trying to be practical. Jason says we should have drawn up a contract, made sure our investment was protected." Investment. As if I were a stock portfolio. "I'm your mother," I said, "and I'm your daughter. But that doesn't mean you can just take our money and shut us out." "I haven't shut anyone out. You're welcome to visit. But you can't move your in-laws into my home without my consent." "We're not asking for your consent. We're telling you what's happening." The words hit me like another slap. "And if I refuse?" I asked. "Then we'll take legal action. Jason's already spoken to a lawyer. We can force the issue if we need to." I sat there, phone pressed to my ear, listening to my daughter threaten to sue me. My daughter, who I'd raised alone after her father left, who I'd put through college on a teacher's salary, who I'd supported through every breakup, every job loss, every crisis. "I see," I said finally. "Mom, don't make this harder than it needs to be. Just say yes. Let them stay. It's not a big deal." "It is to me." "Then maybe you need to examine your priorities." Her voice was cold now, a stranger's voice. Family should come first. You're right, I said. It should. I hung up. For a long moment I sat in silence, the phone in my lap. Outside, a deer wandered past my garden, pausing to nibble at the herbs I'd so carefully planted. Family should come first. But which family? The one that birthed you, or the one you build for yourself? I'd spent my whole life putting my family first. First my husband, who'd cheated and left. Then my children, who'd grown up and forgotten me. Now my daughter, who'd married a man who saw me as an asset to be managed. When did I get to come first? The answer was clear. Never. Not unless I made it happen. I picked up the phone and called Mrs. Henderson. Martha, it's Claire. Do you still have the number for that attorney in town? The one who helped with your property line dispute? Mrs. Henderson had lived next door for 40 years and had more stories than the town library. She'd fought off developers, corrupt officials, and one particularly aggressive raccoon. I do. Why? What's wrong? My daughter and her husband are threatening to sue me. They want to claim partial ownership of my cottage. There was a pause, then a low chuckle. Oh dear. What did I tell you about family? Can't choose them, can't shoot them. I need a lawyer, a good one. Rebecca Hall. She's mean when she needs to be. I'll text you the number. Thank you, Martha. Don't mention it, and Claire, don't let them push you around. You earned that cottage, it's yours. After we hung up, I sat for a long time, watching the light fade from the sky. The tea grew cold in my cup. I'd been naive. I'd thought retirement would be simple. Move to the forest, write my novel, live peacefully. But peace isn't given. It's taken and defended. I called Rebecca Hall's office and left a message. Then I went to my office, the room Jason's parents wanted to occupy, and pulled out a box from the closet. Inside were all my documents related to the cottage purchase, the deed, the mortgage papers, bank statements. And there, at the bottom, was a copy of the check Emily had given me for the down payment. I pulled it out and examined it in the lamplight. On the memo line, in Emily's handwriting, for Mom's retirement gift, love always. Gift, not loan. Gift. I took a photo of the check with my phone, then photographed every other relevant document. When I was finished, I had a complete record of the purchase, all proving I was the sole owner. They wanted a legal fight? Fine. I'd give them one, but I'd win. While you're here, don't forget to subscribe and support this channel with a like. And tell us below, have you ever faced something like this? Rebecca Hall called me back the next morning. Her voice was brisk, professional, impatient. Mrs. Turner, Rebecca Hall, Martha Henderson says you need legal help. My daughter and son-in-law gave me money for a cottage down payment. They called it a gift. Now they're claiming it was a loan and threatening to sue for partial ownership or repayment. Do you have documentation proving it was a gift? The check has retirement gift written on the memo line, plus emails and texts where they repeatedly called it a gift. Perfect. That's exactly what I need. Can you come to my office today? What time? 2 o'clock. Bring everything, every scrap of paper, every email, every text message, birthday cards if they mention the cottage. I want a complete paper trail. I spent the morning compiling evidence, emails where Emily had written things like, "So happy we could help you buy your cottage." Texts from Jason saying, "Enjoy retirement, you earned it." A birthday card from last year where Emily had written, "So glad we could give you the gift of peace." Every piece of evidence told the same story. They'd called it a gift until they wanted something from me. Then suddenly, it was a loan, an investment, something they had rights to. I printed everything, organized it chronologically, and drove into town. Rebecca Hall's office was above the bookstore on Main Street. She was younger than I'd expected, maybe 40, with short gray hair and sharp eyes behind wire-rimmed glasses. "Show me everything," she said, barely waiting for me to sit down. I spread the documents across her desk. She read through them methodically, occasionally making notes on a yellow legal pad. After 20 minutes, she looked up. This is straightforward. The memo line establishes clear intent that the money was a gift. Combined with all these communications referring to it as a gift, they have no case. None. Relief flooded through me. So I'm safe? Legally, yes, but… She leaned back in her chair. Family law gets messy. Even a frivolous lawsuit costs time and money to defend, and it permanently damages relationships. The relationship is already damaged. Is it? Or can it be repaired? I thought about Emily's cold voice on the phone, Jason's demands, Patricia's slap at the wedding. I don't think so, I said. Not anymore. Rebecca nodded. Then here's what we do. We send a letter to their attorney, if they've retained one, and to them directly if they haven't. We'll include copies of all this evidence. We'll make it crystal clear that you have ironclad documentation proving the money was a gift, and that any lawsuit will be immediately dismissed with prejudice. We'll also note that frivolous litigation could result in a countersuit for harassment and legal fees. Will that stop them? If they're smart, yes. If they're stubborn or truly believe they have a case, they might push forward, but they'll lose and it'll cost them a lot of money. How much will this cost me? For the letter and initial response, $500. If they sue and we have to defend, we'll discuss rates then. But honestly, I don't think it'll get that far. The evidence is too clear. I wrote her a check. She promised to have the letter sent within 48 hours. One more thing, she said as I was leaving. Don't communicate with them directly anymore. Everything goes through me. If they call, don't answer. If they show up at your cottage, document it, but don't engage. Let me handle this. Okay. And Mrs. Turner, you did the right thing. Standing up for yourself isn't selfish. It's necessary. I drove home feeling lighter than I had in weeks. Someone was on my side, someone who understood. But the relief lasted only until I pulled into my driveway and saw what was waiting on my porch. A cardboard box, large, sealed with packing tape. I approached carefully, as if it might explode. There was no return address, no label. Just my name written in marker on the side. I carried it inside and opened it on my kitchen table. Inside were photographs, dozens of them. Pictures of my cottage taken from the woods. Pictures of me gardening, visible through my windows. Pictures of me sitting on my porch, reading. Someone had been watching me. At the bottom of the box was a note, printed on plain paper. This is our property too. You can't keep us out forever. My hands shook as I pulled out my phone and called Rebecca Hall. They're harassing me, I said when she answered. They left a box of surveillance photos on my porch. Don't touch anything else. I'm calling the sheriff. This is criminal harassment, possibly stalking. Take photos of everything in that box, then leave it exactly as is. The sheriff arrived an hour later. Deputy Williams, a young man who looked barely old enough to shave, examined the box and photos carefully. This is definitely harassment, he said, taking pictures with his phone. Possibly criminal stalking. We'll file a report and open an investigation. Can you prove who did it? I asked. Without witnesses or video evidence, it's difficult. But we'll document everything. If it escalates, you'll have a paper trail for a restraining order. After he left, I sat in my kitchen staring at the empty box. They'd been watching me, taking pictures, tracking my movements. The invasion felt worse than the slap. Rebecca called that evening. The sheriff's report helps us. I'm adding it to our letter. This goes beyond a property dispute now. It's harassment. They need to know you're documenting everything and that you're prepared to seek protective orders if necessary. Will that make them angrier? Probably, but it'll also make them more careful. People who cross legal lines often back down when they realize there are consequences. I hoped she was right. The letter went out the next day. I didn't hear anything for 48 hours. Then my phone rang. Unknown number. I let it go to voicemail. Mrs. Turner, this is David Brennan. I'm an attorney representing Emily and Jason Patterson regarding the property at 47 Pinewood Lane. I've received a letter from Rebecca Hall. I'd like to discuss this matter before things escalate further. Please call me back. I forwarded the voicemail to Rebecca. She called me back immediately. Don't respond. I'll handle it. This is actually good news. They hired an attorney, which means they're taking this seriously. A real attorney will look at the evidence and advise them to drop it. And if he doesn't, then we go to court and we win. 2 days later, Rebecca called with an update. I spoke with David Brennan. He's reviewed the evidence. He agrees his clients don't have a case and has advised them to drop the matter. So it's over? The legal thread is over. But he also mentioned something interesting. Apparently Emily and Jason didn't know about the surveillance photos. They claim someone else must have done it. Who? He wouldn't say, but he strongly suggested I advise you to install security cameras. He seemed, concerned. A chill ran down my spine. Why would their lawyer be concerned for me? I don't know, but I'm passing along the advice. Get cameras, get them installed today if possible. And Mrs. Turner, be careful. I called Mrs. Henderson. Martha, do you know anyone who installs security cameras? My grandson does that sort of thing. Lives 2 towns over. I'll call him. Why? What happened? I told her about the photos. Jesus Christ, she said. Those bastards. I'll have Tommy here tomorrow morning. Don't you worry. We'll get you protected. Tommy Henderson arrived at 8 a.m. the next day, a tall young man with his grandmother's sharp eyes and no-nonsense attitude. Grandma says you need cameras. Yes, can you do it? I can do better than cameras. I can set up a whole security system, motion sensors, lights, the works. But it'll take a couple days and cost about $2,000. Do it. He walked the property, making notes, planning camera angles. Whoever took those photos was in the woods here, he said, pointing to a spot about 50 yards from my cottage. We'll put a camera there, and here, and one covering your driveway. How soon can you start? Today. I've got most of what I need in the truck. I'll have to order a few things, but the basics can be up by tonight. He worked all day, drilling, running wires, mounting cameras. By evening, I had 4 cameras covering every angle of my property, motion sensor lights on all sides of the cottage, and an app on my phone that let me see everything in real time. Anyone comes near your place now, you'll know, Tommy said, and you'll have video evidence. I paid him and thanked him profusely. Grandma says you're good people, he said. Family giving you trouble? Something like that. Family's the worst sometimes, but you got us now. Anything happens, you call. I'm 20 minutes away. After he left, I tested the system, walking around my property and watching myself on my phone screen. It was strange seeing my cottage from these angles, but also reassuring. I was protected now, watched, but by my own devices. That night I slept better than I had in weeks. The cameras proved their worth 2 nights later. My phone buzzed at 2 a.m., motion detected. I grabbed it and pulled up the app. On the screen, I saw a figure moving through the woods toward my cottage. The motion sensor lights clicked on, flooding the area with brightness. The figure froze, caught in the glare, then turned and ran, but not before the camera captured a clear image of their face. Patricia, Jason's mother. I took screenshots and immediately texted them to Rebecca Hall, even though it was the middle of the night. She responded within minutes. Call the sheriff now. This is trespassing and stalking. I called. Deputy Williams arrived 30 minutes later. She's gone now, I said, showing him the video footage, but I have her on camera. He watched the video 3 times. That's clear evidence of trespassing. With the previous harassment and photos, we can build a case for stalking. I'll file a report and forward this to the district attorney. Will they arrest her? Depends on the DA. But, at minimum, you can get a restraining order. With this video evidence, it should be easy. After he left, I sat on my couch, wrapped in a blanket, watching the camera feeds on my phone. The woods were empty now. Silent. But she'd been there. Had tried to do... What? Leave more photos? Break in? I'd never felt unsafe in my cottage before. Now every shadow felt like a threat. Rebecca called at 7 a.m. I saw your texts. This is good evidence. I'm filing for an emergency restraining order this morning. The judge will review it today. By tonight, Patricia will be legally required to stay at least 500 feet from you and your property. What if she violates it? Then she gets arrested. Restraining order violations are taken seriously. The emergency order was granted by 3 p.m. Deputy Williams delivered it personally. Patricia Patterson has been served, he said. She's aware of the order and the consequences of violating it. You should be safe now. Should be. But I didn't feel safe. I called Emily. She didn't answer. I left a voicemail. Your mother-in-law was on my property at 2 a.m. I have her on camera. There's now a restraining order. Emily, what is happening? Why are they doing this? She called back an hour later. Mom, I don't know anything about that. I swear. Jason's mother was skulking around my cottage in the middle of the night. I believe you, but I didn't know. Jason didn't tell me. Where is he? In California. He left last week. Business trip, he said. Do you believe him? Silence. Then, quietly, I don't know what to believe anymore. Emily, listen to me. Something is very wrong here. This isn't normal. Your husband and his mother are escalating. I know. Her voice cracked. I know, Mom. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. Sorry doesn't fix this. I know, but I mean it. I never wanted this. Any of this. After we hung up, I sat on my porch in the fading light, watching the camera feeds on my phone. The forest was peaceful. Birds sang. Wind moved through the trees. But underneath the peace, I felt it. The threat. The danger. This wasn't over. Not even close. They'd backed down legally, but they hadn't backed down, and I had no idea what they'd try next. For 3 days, nothing happened. No phone calls, no visits, no mysterious boxes or midnight prowlers. The cameras showed only wildlife, deer, raccoons. Once, a black bear that made me jump until I realized it was just passing through, uninterested in my cottage. I tried to relax, tried to return to my routine. Writing in the mornings, reading in the afternoons, but I couldn't focus. Every noise made me jump. Every car on the distant road made my heart race. Mrs. Henderson noticed. You look terrible, she said, arriving unannounced with homemade stew. When's the last time you slept? I sleep. For how long? 2 hours? 3? She set the stew on my counter and fixed me with a stern look. You can't live like this. You'll make yourself sick. What choice do I have? You have the choice to stop letting them control your life. They want you scared. They want you to leave. Don't give them that satisfaction. Easy for you to say. It is easy for me to say. I'm not the one being harassed. But I've lived through my own hell and I learned something important. Fear is a weapon. The moment you let it control you, you've already lost. She was right. I knew she was right, but knowing and feeling are different things. That night, I forced myself to go to bed at my normal time. I left my phone on the nightstand, the camera app open. Every time I woke, which was often, I checked it. Nothing. By morning, I felt marginally more human. I made coffee, strong and bitter, and sat on my porch watching the sunrise. October was giving way to November. Soon there would be frost. Winter. I'd planned to spend my first winter in the cottage, writing by the fire, reading, enjoying the snow. Those plans seemed naive now. My phone rang. Rebecca Hall. Good morning, Mrs. Turner. I have news. Good news or bad news? Depends on your perspective. Patricia Patterson was arrested last night in town. She was drunk and disorderly at a bar. She apparently spent 2 hours telling anyone who would listen that you'd stolen her son's money and belonged in jail. She was arrested for that? For being drunk in public and refusing to leave when the bar owner asked. But the important part is what she said. Multiple witnesses heard her making threats against you, saying she'd make you pay, that she'd burn that cottage to the ground. The sheriff has added those statements to the stalking case. My hand tightened on the phone. She threatened to burn down my cottage? Multiple witnesses confirmed it. Now, she'll probably claim she was drunk and didn't mean it, but combined with the trespassing and photos, we have a pattern of escalating behavior. The DA is considering filing formal charges. Will that protect me? It'll get her on the radar, and it strengthens our case if we need to extend the restraining order or add Jason to it. After we hung up, I sat staring at the forest. Burn that cottage to the ground. The words echoed in my mind. This was my home, the place I'd worked my entire life to afford. The reward for 30 years of teaching, of grading papers until midnight, of dealing with difficult parents and impossible administrators. And Patricia wanted to burn it down because I wouldn't let her stay here. The rage that swept through me was white-hot and clarifying. I was done being afraid. I called Tommy Henderson. Tommy, it's Claire Turner. Can you add more cameras and maybe some kind of alert system? What are you thinking? I want to know if anyone comes within 100 feet of my property. I want lights, loud alarms. I want to make it impossible for anyone to approach without me knowing. I can do that. When? Today. He arrived that afternoon with more equipment. We spent hours upgrading the system, more cameras, brighter lights. Anyone tries anything now, Tommy said, they'll alert the whole county. Good. Mrs. Henderson came over as Tommy was finishing up. Making a fortress? She asked. Making myself safe. Good, you should. But Claire, you know this can't go on forever. Eventually this has to end. How? That's the question, isn't it? She settled into my porch chair. They're not going to stop. People like that don't. They escalate until something forces them to stop. Like what? Like consequences. Real ones. The kind that hurt. I looked at her. What are you suggesting? I'm suggesting you stop playing defense. Start playing offense. I've already got a lawyer. I've got a restraining order. What else can I do? She smiled, sharp and knowing. You're a smart woman. You taught for 30 years. You know how to handle bullies. What did you do when a student tried to push you around? I documented everything. Then I made sure there were consequences. Exactly. So document, find their weaknesses, and make sure there are consequences. After she left, I sat thinking about her words. Make sure there are consequences. What consequences could I impose? I wasn't rich, I wasn't powerful. I was a retired teacher living in a cottage in the woods, but I was smart, and I was motivated. I opened my laptop and started searching. Jason Patterson, finance executive. His company had a website with his bio and photo. He looked confident, successful, smug. I dug deeper. Public records, news articles, court filings, and there, buried in legal databases, I found it. Jason's company had been sued 3 years ago. The case had been settled out of court, but the initial complaint was public record. A client accused Jason personally of misrepresenting investment risks, resulting in significant financial losses. The complaint detailed specific emails and conversations where Jason had allegedly downplayed risks and overstated potential returns. The case had settled with a non-disclosure agreement, but the initial complaint, with all its allegations, was still accessible. I kept digging. Another lawsuit. Older. Another settlement. Another NDA. Jason had a pattern. He'd been accused twice of misleading clients. Both times, his company had settled quickly, quietly, making the problems go away with money. But the accusations remained, there in the public record for anyone who knew where to look. I printed everything. Then I started searching for more. Patricia Patterson. She had a smaller digital footprint, but it existed. Social media posts complaining about everything from restaurant service to airplane seat sizes. Reviews she'd left for hotels, always negative, always demanding refunds. And one interesting detail. She'd been arrested once before, 10 years ago, for shoplifting. The charges had been dropped, but the arrest record was public. I compiled everything into a folder. Jason's lawsuits, Patricia's arrest, screenshots of her nasty social media posts. Then I sat back and thought about what to do with it. Mrs. Henderson had said to play offense, to impose consequences. But what consequences? I couldn't release this information publicly. That might be defamation, even if it was all from public records. But I could let them know I had it. I called Rebecca Hall. I found some interesting information about Jason and Patricia. Public records, lawsuits, arrests. Nothing confidential, but embarrassing. What are you thinking of doing with it? I want to send them a letter, through you, letting them know I have this information, that if the harassment continues, I might feel compelled to share it with relevant parties. Relevant parties like Jason's employer, his current clients, anyone who might be interested to know he's been accused of fraud multiple times. There was a long pause. That's playing hardball, Rebecca finally said. They threatened to burn down my house. True. Okay. Here's how we do this. We draft a letter stating that you've become aware of certain public information regarding their histories. We don't threaten anything specific. We just note that continued harassment might necessitate bringing this information to the attention of appropriate parties for your own protection. We leave it vague enough to avoid a defamation claim. Will it work? If they're smart, yes. If they're not, well, you'll have another decision to make. The letter went out the next day. I waited for the response. It came faster than expected. Jason called. I didn't answer, but he left a voicemail. You want to play this game? Fine. I've got information too. About you, about your past. Things Emily told me, things that might be very interesting to certain people. I listened to the voicemail 3 times, trying to understand the threat. What could he possibly have on me? I'd lived a boring life. Teacher, wife, mother, divorcee. What scandal existed there? I called Rebecca and played her the voicemail. He's bluffing, she said immediately. This is intimidation. If he had something real, he'd use it, not threaten to use it. Are you sure? 90% sure, but we'll prepare anyway. Is there anything in your past that someone could twist into something negative? I thought hard. My divorce. My husband cheated. I found out and left him. Could they use that? How would they spin it against you? I don't know. Maybe that I abandoned him? That I was a bad wife? That's absurd and unprovable. Anything else? I was fired from a teaching position once, but that was 30 years ago, and it was budget cuts, not performance. Nothing there. He's bluffing. Ignore it. But I couldn't ignore it. The threat hung over me like a storm cloud. What if he did have something? What if Emily had told him some confidence, some embarrassing moment from my past, and he planned to weaponize it? I called Emily. What did you tell Jason about me? I demanded when she answered. What? Nothing. I mean, normal things. Did you tell him anything he could use against me? Mom, what are you talking about? He left me a voicemail threatening to reveal damaging information about my past. What could he possibly mean? She was quiet for a long moment. Emily? There's only one thing I can think of, she said slowly. Do you remember when I was 16? When I got pregnant? My heart stopped. Yes. I told Jason about that, about how you helped me get an abortion, how you drove me to the clinic, paid for it, never told Dad. The memory came flooding back. Emily, terrified, crying in my bedroom, the positive pregnancy test, her boyfriend who'd disappeared the moment she told him. I'd helped her. Of course I'd helped her. She was 16, her whole life ahead of her. That's private, I said. That's between us. I know. I'm sorry. I told him years ago before we were married. I didn't think he'd ever use it against you. How would he use it? I don't know. Maybe threaten to tell people? Make you look bad somehow? In this town, in some circles, helping your daughter get an abortion might be controversial. But it wasn't illegal. It wasn't shameful. It was being a mother. Let him tell whoever he wants, I said. I'm not ashamed of helping you. I'm sorry, Mom. I should never have told him. No, you shouldn't have. But you did. So now we deal with it. After we hung up, I called Rebecca. He's going to try to shame me over helping my daughter get an abortion when she was 16. That's it? That's his big threat? Apparently. Rebecca laughed. Oh, he's dumber than I thought. Medical decisions are protected. He can't legally share information about your daughter's medical history. And helping your child access medical care is not only legal, it's admirable. If he tries this, we'll bury him. You're sure? Completely. In fact, if he does try to weaponize this, we can sue him for invasion of privacy and possibly HIPAA violations, depending on how he obtained and shared the information. I felt the tension drain from my shoulders. So he's got nothing. He's got nothing, and he knows it. This is desperation. He's losing, and he's flailing. That night, for the first time in weeks, I slept soundly. The next morning, I woke to my phone buzzing with alerts, multiple motion detections, the cameras showing figures in the woods. I grabbed the phone and pulled up the live feed. 3 people, moving through the trees toward my cottage. The motion lights clicked on, flooding the area. I recognized them immediately: Jason, Patricia, and a third person I didn't know, a man in dark clothing. They froze in the lights, caught like deer. I hit the siren button. The alarm blared, loud enough to wake the entire county. The 3 figures scattered, running back into the woods. I was already calling 911. 3 people just trespassed on my property. I have them on camera. 2 have active restraining orders. Units are on the way, ma'am. Stay inside and keep your doors locked. I watched the camera feeds. The 3 figures had disappeared into the trees, but I had clear footage of their faces. Jason, Patricia, and the third man, unknown. The sheriff arrived within 10 minutes. 2 deputies this time, including Deputy Williams. I showed them the footage. That's a clear restraining order violation, Deputy Williams said, for both Jason and Patricia Patterson. We'll put out a warrant immediately. Who's the third person? I asked. Don't know, but we'll find out. This is enough for arrest warrants. They'll be in custody by tonight. After the deputies left, I sat on my porch, watching the morning light filter through the trees. They'd come here, in the middle of the night, 3 of them. What had they planned to do? My phone rang. Emily. Mom, the police are here. They're arresting Jason. Good. He's screaming about false accusations, about you setting him up. I have him on camera violating a restraining order. I know. Mom, I'm so sorry. I didn't know he was planning this. I swear I didn't. Where were you? At home, asleep. He must have snuck out. Do you believe that? Or are you lying to yourself? Silence. Emily, you need to make a choice. Him or reality, because he just committed a crime, multiple crimes, and he did it because he can't accept that I won't let him control my life. I know. Her voice was small. I know, Mom. So what are you going to do? I don't know. I need time to think. Take all the time you need. But know this. I'm done being afraid. I'm done being the victim. If he comes near me again, I'll make sure he regrets it. I hung up. Mrs. Henderson appeared at my door an hour later. Heard the sirens. What happened? I told her everything. Good Lord, she said when I finished. They're insane. They're desperate. There's a difference. What happens now? Now? Now they face consequences. And for the first time since this whole nightmare began, I smiled. Jason and Patricia were released on bail within 24 hours. I knew because Deputy Williams called to warn me. They're out, but they're required to stay at least 500 feet from your property. Any violation, and they go back to jail without bail. What about the third man? Still working on identifying him, but we will. When's the court date? 3 weeks. for the restraining order violations. They're facing up to 6 months each. 6 months. Not nearly enough, but something. I spent the next few days in a strange state of calm. The constant fear was gone, replaced by cold certainty. They'd crossed a legal line. Now the system would handle them. But I was wrong to feel safe. The attack came where I wasn't looking. I went into town for groceries and found myself facing a wall of hostility. The cashier at the market was curt. The baker refused to serve me. At the post office, the clerk actually turned his back when I approached. "What's going on?" I asked Mrs. Henderson when I returned home. She looked uncomfortable. "You haven't heard?" "Heard what?" "There's a story going around. About you. About your daughter." My stomach dropped. "What kind of story?" "That you forced Emily to have an abortion when she was young. That you threatened her, told her you'd disown her if she didn't. That you're a controlling, abusive mother." Jason. He'd done exactly what he'd threatened, but twisted it into something ugly. "That's a lie," I said. "I know it is. But half the town doesn't. Jason's been calling people, telling them this sob story about how his wife's mother is trying to destroy their marriage because she can't accept that Emily's an adult. Why would anyone believe him? Because he's charming. Because he sounds sincere. Because people love gossip, especially when it's scandalous. I called Rebecca Hall immediately. "He's spreading lies about me, violating Emily's medical privacy. What can we do?" "If we can prove he's the source, we can sue for defamation and privacy violations. But we need evidence, recordings, witnesses, something concrete." "How do I get that?" "You probably can't, unless someone who heard him is willing to testify." I spent the rest of the day calling people I knew in town. Most didn't answer. Those who did were cold, distant. The librarian, who I'd volunteered with, actually hung up on me. Jason had poisoned the entire town against me. That night, I sat in my cottage feeling more alone than I'd felt since moving here. The isolation I'd craved had become a prison. My phone rang. Emily. "Mom, I heard what Jason's been telling people." "You mean the lies?" "They're not entirely lies, though. You did help me get an abortion. You asked me to help you. You begged me." I know, but the way he's telling it makes me sound like a monster. Is that what you think I am?" "No, of course not. But Mom, you have to understand. Jason's trying to protect himself. The arrest, the charges, he's scared. So he's destroying my reputation, and you're defending him?" "I'm not defending him. I'm just saying I understand why he's doing it." "Do you hear yourself, Emily? Do you hear what you're saying?" Silence. "You're choosing him again," I said quietly. "After everything, you're still choosing him. He's my husband. And I'm your mother. The one who actually helped you when you needed it. Who drove you to the clinic. Who held your hand. Who never told anyone, not even your father. I protected you, and now you're letting him use that to hurt me. I don't know what you want me to do. I want you to tell the truth. I want you to stand up and say Jason's lying, that I helped you because you asked for help, not because I forced you. I can't do that. If I contradict him, he'll what? Get angry? Emily, he's going to be angry anyway. He's facing criminal charges. He's desperate. And desperate people are dangerous. You sound paranoid. I sound experienced. I've been dealing with bullies for 30 years. I know how they operate. And Jason is a bully. A smart one, but still a bully. I need to go." She hung up. I sat holding the phone, feeling something inside me break. Not my heart. That had broken weeks ago. Something deeper. The last thread of hope that my daughter would choose me over him. She wouldn't. She'd made her choice. Fine. Then I'd make mine. I opened my laptop and started writing. Not my novel, something else. Something true. I wrote about Emily's pregnancy, about her fear, about how I'd helped her because I loved her. I wrote about the clinic visit, the tears, the relief afterward. I wrote about keeping her secret for 20 years because that's what mothers do. Then I wrote about Jason, about the demands, the threats, the harassment, the trespassing, the lies he was spreading now. I wrote it all, clearly and calmly, with dates and details and evidence. When I finished, it was 3 a.m. I'd written 15 pages, the truth, documented and undeniable. I sent it to Rebecca Hall with a note. "Can I publish this?" She called me at 8 a.m. "You can publish it. It's all true, all documented. But Claire, if you do this, there's no going back. This will permanently destroy your relationship with Emily." "I think it's already destroyed." "Are you sure? Because once this is public, you can't take it back." I thought about Emily's voice on the phone. "I can't do that. If I contradict him, he'll—" She was scared. I understood that. But she was also choosing her fear over my well-being. "I'm sure," I said. "Then I'll review it for legal issues and send you back a clean version. Where are you planning to publish?" "Local newspaper, Facebook, anywhere people will see it." "Give me 2 hours." Rebecca sent back the edited version with all legally problematic statements removed or rephrased. It was still powerful, still true. I posted it on Facebook first. Then I emailed it to the local newspaper editor. Then I printed copies and drove into town, leaving them at the library, the coffee shop, the bookstore. By noon, the story was spreading. By evening, my phone was ringing constantly. I didn't answer. Jason called and left a voicemail full of threats and profanity. I forwarded it to Rebecca and the sheriff. Emily called. I let it go to voicemail. "Mom, what have you done? Jason is furious. He's saying he'll sue you. Please take it down." I deleted the message. Mrs. Henderson came over with wine and approval. "About damn time you fought back," she said, pouring us both large glasses. I read it. "Every word is true, isn't it?" "Every word." "Then you did the right thing. Let the chips fall where they may." The chips fell hard and fast. The next morning I woke to dozens of messages. Most were supportive. People apologizing for believing Jason's lies. People saying they'd always known something was off about him. But some were vicious. People calling me a liar, a bad mother, a vindictive witch. I ignored them all. The newspaper published my story on the front page with the headline, "Local Woman Speaks Out About Harassment and Defamation." By afternoon, it had been picked up by regional news sites. By evening, someone had posted it to Reddit. It went viral. Suddenly, my small-town drama was national news. My phone rang. A producer from a daytime talk show wanted me to appear. I declined. A reporter from a state newspaper wanted an interview. I declined. I'd said what I needed to say. I didn't need 15 minutes of fame. I needed peace. But peace wasn't coming. Not yet. 3 days after my story went public, Emily appeared at my door. She looked terrible, eyes red from crying, hair unbrushed, wearing sweatpants and a stained t-shirt. "Can I come in?" she asked. I stepped aside. She walked into my living room and sat on the couch, looking around as if seeing the cottage for the first time. "Nice place," she said finally. "Thank you." "I read your story, all of it." I waited. "I'm sorry," she said. "For everything, for choosing Jason over you, for not defending you, for letting him hurt you." "Okay. That's it? Just okay?" "What do you want me to say, Emily? That I forgive you? I don't. Not yet. Maybe not ever." She flinched. "I deserve that." "Yes, you do." "I'm leaving him. I've already filed for divorce." "Good. He's not who I thought he was. Or maybe he is, and I was just lying to myself." She wiped her eyes. "I loved him. I really did. But he's cruel. And I helped him be cruel to you." "Yes, you did. Can you ever forgive me?" I looked at my daughter, at the woman she'd become. Weak, where she should be strong, easily manipulated, a coward. But also my daughter, the girl I'd raised, the teenager I'd helped through her darkest moment. I don't know, I said honestly. Maybe someday, but not today. She nodded. That's fair. Where will you go? I found an apartment. Small, but it's mine. I start therapy next week. She looked at me. I know I have a lot of work to do, on myself, on understanding why I let Jason control me, why I betrayed you. Yes, you do. Can I call you sometimes? Not often. Just to let you know I'm okay? You can call. I might not always answer. I understand. She stood to leave. At the door, she turned back. I read the comments on your story, online. Most people support you. They're saying you're brave. I'm not brave. I'm just tired of being afraid. That's what brave is, Mom. After she left, I sat in my reading chair and watched the sun set through the trees. Brave. I didn't feel brave. I felt exhausted, but also lighter. The truth was out. The lies were exposed. Whatever happened next, at least I'd fought back. The court date came 2 weeks later. Jason and Patricia were charged with restraining order violations, trespassing, and criminal harassment. I testified about the photos, the midnight visit, the threats. The video evidence was clear and damning. The judge wasn't sympathetic. Mr. Patterson, Mrs. Patterson, your behavior has been reprehensible. You've harassed a woman in her own home, violated court orders, and shown absolutely no remorse. Jason tried to interrupt. The judge silenced him with a look. You're each sentenced to 90 days in county jail, suspended pending completion of anger management courses, and 1 year of probation. You're also ordered to pay Mrs. Turner's legal fees and maintain a permanent restraining order distance of 1,000 feet. It wasn't prison, but it was something. After the hearing, Rebecca pulled me aside. You won. Did I? Yes. Legally, financially, morally. You won. I looked at her. Then why doesn't it feel like winning? Because winning never feels the way you think it will, especially when it costs you something important. I drove home in silence. Mrs. Henderson was waiting on my porch. Heard the verdict. 90 days suspended. Could have been worse. Could have been better. Could have been a lot of things. But it's done. They're on probation. They come near you again, they go to jail. That's something. I suppose. She studied me. You're not happy. I'm tired. That's not the same thing. No, it's not. She was quiet for a moment. You did good, Claire. You stood up for yourself. You fought back. Not many people have the courage to do that. I didn't have a choice. We always have choices. You chose to fight instead of run. That matters. Maybe it did, but it didn't make me feel any better. That night, I sat on my porch, watching the stars. The forest was quiet, peaceful. My cottage was mine. The harassment had stopped. The legal battle was over. I'd won. But the victory felt hollow. I'd lost my daughter, at least for now. I'd lost my reputation in town, though it was slowly being rebuilt. I'd lost the peace I'd come here seeking. What had I gained? Self-respect, the knowledge that I could survive, the certainty that I would never again let someone walk over me. Was that enough? I didn't know. The stars wheeled overhead, indifferent to human drama. The forest whispered its eternal secrets, and I sat in my cottage, the home I'd fought for, and wondered what came next. Not peace, not yet, maybe never, but something harder, something more real. Acceptance of what I'd done, of what I'd lost, of who I'd become. I was Claire Turner, retired teacher, mother, fighter. I'd stood my ground. I'd protected what was mine, and I'd live with the consequences, whatever they were. I stood up, stretched, and went inside. Tomorrow would bring new challenges, new decisions, new complications, but tonight I would sleep in my own bed, in my own home, knowing I'd earned the right to be here. That would have to be enough. The weeks after the trial passed in a strange, suspended quiet. Jason and Patricia returned to California. Emily moved into her apartment across town. The restraining orders remained in effect. My cottage stood undisturbed in the forest, but something had shifted inside me. Not healing, exactly. More like calcification. The soft parts of me that had once bent to accommodate others had hardened into something inflexible. Mrs. Henderson noticed. "You're different," she said one morning over coffee. "How?" "Colder, harder, like you've got armor on all the time now." "Maybe I do. That's not necessarily a good thing. It's kept me alive so far," she frowned. "Alive isn't the same as living." I didn't respond. What could I say? She was right. I was going through the motions, writing, reading, tending my garden. But the joy had leaked out of everything. The cottage felt like a fortress now instead of a home. Every sound made me check the cameras. Every car on the distant road made my pulse quicken. The peace I'd fought for remained elusive. Emily called once a week, usually on Sundays. The conversations were stilted, careful. She'd tell me about her therapy sessions, her new job at a bookstore, her slow process of disentangling her life from Jason's. I'd listen and make appropriate noises. But I couldn't bring myself to be warm. Not yet. Maybe not ever. "I saw Jason yesterday," she said one Sunday in December. "He showed up at my apartment." My hand tightened on the phone. "Did you call the police?" "No, he didn't come inside. Just stood in the parking lot and yelled for a while. Said I'd ruined his life, that it was my fault he lost his job." "He lost his job?" "The company fired him after the trial. Bad publicity. They're distancing themselves from the fraud allegations, too. I guess once people started looking closely at his record, they didn't like what they found." I felt a flicker of satisfaction. "Good. Mom, he's falling apart. He's drinking. His parents won't talk to him. He's got nothing left." "That's not your problem, Emily. I know, but part of me still feels guilty, like I should have seen this coming. Should have stopped it before it got this bad." "You couldn't have stopped him. People like Jason only stop when they face real consequences, and even then, they usually just blame everyone else." "I guess you're right." She paused. "How are you doing? Really?" "I'm fine. You don't sound fine." "I'm alive. I'm safe. That's what matters." "That's what you keep saying. But Mom, are you happy?" Was I happy? I looked around my cottage, the books I wasn't reading, the novel I wasn't writing, the garden I'd let go dormant for winter. "I'm working on it," I said. After we hung up, I sat staring at the wall. Happy. What a strange word. Once, I'd thought happiness meant peace, retirement in a cottage, time to write, freedom from responsibility. Now I knew better. Happiness wasn't the absence of conflict. It was something else, something I couldn't quite define anymore. Mrs. Henderson appeared at my door that afternoon, as she often did, with food and unsolicited advice. "You need to do something," she announced, setting a casserole on my counter. "I'm doing plenty. You're hiding. There's a difference." She fixed me with a stern look. "When's the last time you went into town, had coffee with someone other than me? Did anything besides sit in this cottage brooding?" "I'm not brooding. You're absolutely brooding, and it's getting worse. Pretty soon you'll be a complete hermit, and then what? You fought for this life. Now you need to live it. I don't know how anymore." The admission surprised us both. Mrs. Henderson's expression softened. "Oh, honey, yes you do. You just forgot temporarily, but I'll remind you. Tomorrow we're going to the library. They're having a volunteer meeting for the winter book fair. You're coming." I'm not asking, I'm telling. Be ready at 10. She left before I could argue. The next morning I considered not answering the door when she knocked, but Mrs. Henderson was persistent. She'd wait. Or worse, she'd call the sheriff to check on me. I got dressed and let her drag me into town. The library was warm and crowded. People I hadn't seen in months filled the meeting room. Some smiled at me, Others looked uncomfortable. A few turned away entirely. My story had been public, but that didn't mean everyone believed it, or forgave me for airing family drama so publicly. The librarian, Susan, spotted me and hesitated before walking over. "Claire, it's good to see you." "Hello, Susan. I want to apologize for hanging up on you, for believing the rumors without asking for your side." "It's fine." "It's not fine. I should have known better. You volunteered here for months. You were always kind, always helpful. I should have trusted that instead of listening to gossip." Her apology was sincere. I could see it in her eyes. "Thank you," I said. "We'd love to have you back as a volunteer, if you're interested." I looked around the room. People organizing books, planning events, laughing together, community, connection, things I'd lost in my quest to protect myself. "I'll think about it," I said. Mrs. Henderson elbowed me. "She means yes." Susan smiled. "Good. We meet every Tuesday. And Claire, I really am sorry." After the meeting, Mrs. Henderson and I had coffee at the shop on Main Street. The barista who'd been cold to me before was now overly friendly, as if compensating. "See?" Mrs. Henderson said. "People aren't so bad once you give them a chance to make things right." Some people. Most people. The truly awful ones are rare. Most folks are just confused and scared and trying their best. I sipped my coffee. "When did you get so wise?" 40 years of living next to difficult neighbors. You learn to see past the surface stuff. We sat in comfortable silence for a while. Then Mrs. Henderson said, "You know what your problem is?" "I'm sure you'll tell me." "You're waiting for everything to go back to how it was before Jason, before the harassment, before the fight. But it won't. That life is gone. You need to build a new one." I don't know what that looks like. Neither did I when my husband died, but I figured it out. You will too. I thought about her words all the way home. Build a new life. But how? The old blueprints didn't work anymore. I'd changed too much. The world had changed too much. That evening, I opened my laptop and looked at my abandoned novel, the story about a woman seeking peace in retirement. It felt naive now, childish. I deleted it. Then I opened a new document and started writing something different. A story about a woman who'd been betrayed, who'd fought back, who'd won but lost something in the process. A story about learning to live with scars. The words came slowly at first, then faster. I wrote until midnight, then kept writing. By the time I stopped, the sun was rising and I had 20 pages. It wasn't good, but it was real, and real was better than perfect. Over the next few weeks, I fell into a new routine, writing in the mornings, volunteering at the library on Tuesdays, having coffee with Mrs. Henderson, slowly rebuilding connections in town. People gradually warmed to me again. Some apologized, others just moved past it, accepting that the drama was over and life continued. Emily called less frequently, which was fine. She needed space to work on herself. So did I. In January, I received a letter from Patricia's lawyer, not a threat this time, an apology. Patricia had completed anger management and wanted to express remorse for her behavior. The letter was formal, clearly written by the lawyer, but the signature at the bottom was hers. I read it once, then filed it away. An apology didn't undo what she'd done, but it was something. Jason never apologized. According to Emily, he'd moved back to California and was working as a car salesman. His finance career was over, his marriage was over, his parents barely spoke to him. He'd lost everything, and he blamed everyone but himself. I felt no pity for him. February brought snow, heavy and relentless. I spent days inside, writing and reading and watching the forest turn white. One afternoon, my phone rang. Unknown number. I almost didn't answer, but curiosity won. "Mrs. Turner, this is David Brennan, Emily and Jason's former attorney." I tensed. What do you want? To apologize. I should have looked more carefully at the evidence before threatening legal action. I allowed my clients to manipulate me into bullying you. That was unprofessional and wrong. Okay. I also wanted you to know that I've reported Jason to the State Bar Association. Some of what he asked me to do crossed ethical lines. I should have refused. I didn't. But I'm making it right now. Why are you telling me this? Because you deserve to know. And because what you did, standing up for yourself, publishing your story, it took courage. You reminded me why I became a lawyer. To help people, not hurt them. After he hung up, I sat staring at the phone. An apology from Patricia. An apology from her son's lawyer. Emily slowly rebuilding her life. Consequences. Real ones. The kind that actually changed behavior. Maybe Mrs. Henderson was right. Maybe most people weren't truly awful. Maybe they just needed to be pushed hard enough to see their mistakes. In March, Emily asked if she could visit. I want to see the cottage, she said. Really see it, not just show up demanding things. Okay. She arrived on a Saturday, looking healthier than I'd seen her in years. Clear-eyed, steady, more like the daughter I'd raised. We walked through the cottage together. She admired my writing space, my garden plans for spring, the improvements I'd made. It's beautiful, Mom. Peaceful. It is now. We sat on the porch with tea, watching birds at the feeder I'd installed. I'm doing better, Emily said. Therapy is helping. I'm starting to understand why I stayed with Jason so long, why I let him control me. Why? Fear. Of being alone. Of failing. Of disappointing you. She looked at me. I spent so much time trying to have the perfect life, the perfect husband, that I didn't notice how imperfect everything actually was. Nobody's life is perfect. I know that now. I wish I'd known it sooner. We sat in silence for a while. Then Emily said, Can I ask you something? Go ahead. Do you think you'll ever forgive me? Really forgive me? I considered the question carefully. I don't know. Part of me has. The part that understands you were scared and manipulated, but another part is still angry, still hurt. Maybe those parts will heal eventually. Maybe they won't. That's fair. But Emily, forgiveness isn't the only thing that matters. What matters is whether we can build something new, a different relationship, not the one we had before, but something that works for who we are now. Can we do that? I think so, if we're both willing to try. She smiled, tentative but real. I'd like that. After she left, I sat on my porch as the sun set. Birds returning from wherever they'd spent the cold months. Renewal. Not a return to what was, but growth into something new. Mrs. Henderson appeared as if summoned by my thoughts. Saw Emily leave. How'd it go? Better than expected. Good. You ready to stop punishing yourself yet? Was I punishing myself? Of course you were. Sitting here alone, refusing to let anyone close, convinced you have to stay hard and cold to survive. That's not survival, Claire. So what should I do? Live. Really live. Not just exist in your fortress, but open the door, let people in, risk getting hurt again. That's terrifying. Of course it is. All the good stuff is terrifying. That's how you know it matters. She left me with that thought. That night, I sat at my laptop and read what I'd written. The story of the woman with scars. It was almost finished. Just needed an ending. I thought about what that ending should be. Triumph, revenge, justice. No, something simpler, something true. I wrote, She stood on her porch, watching spring arrive. The fight was over, the scars remained, but she was still standing, and that, she realized, was enough. I saved the file and closed the laptop. Enough. What a strange word. Once it would have felt like settling, like giving up. Now it felt like wisdom. I'd fought for my home. I'd protected myself. I'd survived betrayal and harassment and public shame, and now I was here, scarred but standing, changed but alive. Was I happy? Not the way I'd imagined happiness, but something else, something harder and more real, content, not with everything, but with enough. I looked around my cottage, my home, my fortress, my sanctuary. Tomorrow, I'd open the windows, let in fresh air, maybe invite Mrs. Henderson for dinner, maybe call Emily and suggest another visit. Small steps toward something new, not the life I'd planned, but a life I'd earned. And that, I decided, was worth something after all.